Hi pals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. And in today's video, I'm going to be going through all of my most anticipated releases that are coming out in 2025. Disclaimer, I am doing this video about 2.5 months into 2025, so there are already some books that are not going to be on this list just because they've already released. So we're going mid-March 2025 throughout most of the rest of the year, just hitting on the books that I feel like I'm the most excited about. We're talking a lot of contemporary new releases. We're talking romantasy, fantasy, some romance sprinkled in there. That's basically all of the genres, and we're talking female authors. I don't think there is a single male author on this book list, so let's go girls. It is March, which means it is International Women's Month, and we're hitting on the most important authors that I care about. Women. So we're going to go ahead and start off this strong with a book releasing at the end of March, and that's coming out on March 21st, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the fifth book in the Hunger Games series, and this, like the book that she released before, Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, both of these are going to be prequels to the original Hunger Games trilogy. This book has been highly requested by people because it focuses on Hamish Abernathy, who is the mentor from the Hunger Games. He's the one that's played by, I think, Woody Harrelson. I'm pretty sure. This follows Hamish's journey throughout the 50th Hunger Games, and this was a really big deal when it happened because he is from District 12, which is notoriously like the most poor district, and he goes on to win his cycle of the Hunger Games. We've all had a lot of questions about Hamish just because in the books and in the movies, if you didn't read the books, he comes off as a little bit standoffish. He is not super into the fame or the stardom. He's literally always intoxicated. So we want to know more about his backstory, how he became the way he became, and we are so excited for this book because it's going to focus so much on his life before the Hunger Games, the people that were close to him, the love of his life, I think, is going to be mentioned in this, and probably that loss, which is really what I think drives him to be the way that he is during the Hunger Games books. So we are very excited for Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which is coming out on March 21st. The next book that I am so excited for, this author actually has 2 books coming out this year, which is totally crazy, but it is coming out on April 1st, and that is going to be Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake. She is the same author that wrote January's. She wrote Alone with You in the Ether. She wrote the Atlas Complex series. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. I actually so luckily have an arc to this book, and I'm reading it currently right now. I'm like 60-something% of the way through it. So I already know really what's happening in this book, but I'll give you a brief little synopsis based on what the blurb of it is. I don't want to give away anything that's happening in the book. So this book follows 3 siblings who have to cope with the death of their father, who's this mega gajillionaire biotech company owner. He's a big businessman, and these 3 siblings all have deep-seated rivalry and almost bordering toxic hatred for each other because they all took very different paths in life. So you have the oldest daughter, her name is Meredith, and she is like another biotech prodigy. She's super smart. She's heading her own biotech company outside of her dad, and she completely despises her dad. And the second sibling in this, his name is Arthur, and he's like the youngest congressman ever elected, and he is somewhat seemingly living the perfect life on the outside, but on reality, he has a lot of different things going on. And then the youngest sibling, her name is Ailey, and she is like daddy's dream girl, basically. She was destined to be this ballet prodigy, and then she has a horrible accident, and that dream gets taken away from her, and she ends up working as some low like marketing manager for the company, not anything high up, not like CEO, not even in the boardroom, you know. So this follows the three siblings as they try to navigate what to do after their dad's death, and also who is going to get the inheritance, who's going to become like the majority shareholder in this gajillionaire biotech industry company so that they can run this company. So that's kind of what we're working with here. The Wren siblings, they love each other, but they hate each other. Like realistically, they don't really know a lot about each other and they don't really get along. This is also going to be like a urban fantasy. There is magic in this, kind of woven into the story in a way that is like very interesting. It's like very much the world that we live in today, but if there was magic, but magic is not really real. Like people don't believe in magic. Like this is like learned magic, like witchcraft basically. So very, very interesting. I'm really enjoying it. That is Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake, coming out on April 1st. So the next book is actually going to be Fearless by Lauren Roberts. That's the third book in the Powerless trilogy. I can't really tell you a lot about what even the blurb of this says, because if you haven't read Powerless or Reckless, you're really not going to get what's happening obviously in Fearless, because we're following the story that has continued on. I will say that Powerless is very similar to the Red Queen. If you've watched any of my recent videos, I've talked about this quite a few times, but I'll give you the synopsis of Powerless just in case you haven't read that. I don't want to give away anything for Fearless. So this is about a girl who lives in a world that is split between the ordinaries and the elites. The elites are people who are born with special magic. They are going to be the people that have like magic running through their veins that is powerful. The ordinaries are people who still have magic, but it's like lesser magic, like things that are not very impressive. And regular humans who have no magic are not allowed to live in this land. However, our main character is a ordinary, but an ordinary without magic, secretly living in the slums with the other lesser magic people. So she somehow gets caught up between the two princes, and there is a love triangle that ensues. It's YA romantasy, so lots of banter, lots of like flirting, but not any spice because it's YA. But I really, really enjoyed this book when I read it. I think I still enjoyed this book. I was really, really mad at the second book. So annoyed with that book. I'm hoping that the third and final book in this trilogy will kind of clear up everything that I was so upset about in the second book. Hoping for happily ever after. However, not guaranteed in a fantasy book. You never know. So really, really hoping for it. Cannot say that I know for certain it's going to happen, especially after the events of the second book. So that's Fearless by Lauren Roberts, coming out on April 8th. Sorry, I can't really give you a lot about it. Even the blurb doesn't give a lot away about it because it doesn't want to tell you how the series is going to end. So Fearless by Lauren Roberts, April 8th. So all of those books have been a little intense. Let's break it up with a bit of a contemporary romance that's coming out in April, on April 22nd to be exact. And that would be, I keep saying this title wrong, so I have to read it directly from my iPad. That would be Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I know that Emily Henry is one of the top authors. People love her. People love her writing. I've only read one of her books, and that would be her most recent one that came out, Funny Story. Ate it up. Loved it. Enjoyed it. Talked about it quite a few times on here. Very, very good book. I have two of her other books, Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation. And there's another one, Beach Read. I have that too. And I want to get Happy Place, and I'll have all of her books besides this new one that's coming out. But Great Big Beautiful Life is about two authors who are both writing like a memoir over this very, very cantankerous and whimsical and just big character of a person, and they're both writing this memoir, and the lady that they're doing the memoir over is giving both of them different information, and so they are trying to figure out like how to piece this together. However, they're not allowed to talk to each other as authors because they have like ironclad NDAs. So it is about them just trying to piece together this woman's life without actually spending any time together, because every time that these two authors are in a room together, there's so much tension, it is palpable in the air. Let me say it again. There's so much tension that you can feel it pulsating through the air. So they cannot be around each other. One of the authors is a like very happy-go-lucky sunshine, really wants to get her big break in the writing industry, and the other writer, he's like a very grumpy Pulitzer Prize winning author who is just like not really in the mood to be fussing with this, but he wants this story because this person that they're doing it on is so renowned that it would be stupid of him not to take it. So very excited. I like the way that Emily Henry wrote Funny Story. It was really fun, the characters and their development. It just felt very well-rounded, and also it didn't feel like so cheesy, like so absolutely cringy that I'm gonna die reading it, because there are some romances that I read that are literally so cringy and so cheesy. I'm looking directly at every Lucy Score book that I've ever read that I don't think they could be well read in the next 5 years. Like 5 years from now, those books are not going to stand up. They're going to have weird language in them. They're going to have things that don't make sense. But these Emily Henry books that I've read, well, the Emily Henry book that I've read does feel like it will stand up and that I will be able to recommend it for many years. And I'm hoping that Great Big Beautiful Life will be no different than that. I love a book about a writer. I love a book about media. It's just so fun. So that one is coming out April 22nd. So going into May now, on May 20th, The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillig comes out. And if you know anything about me, you may know that I love Rachel Gillig's duology, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. That's the Shepherd King's duology. That YA romantasy is written so beautifully. The world building, the magic system, it is all so cool that you could feed me anything that Rachel Gillig writes at this point. And The Knight and the Moth has such an interesting premise that there's no way I'm going to stay away from it. So this book is about a woman named Sybil who's actually a prophetess. So she is someone who like sees a future. She's a diviner, if that makes sense. Maybe similar to an oracle. I don't know if those are like quite the same, but in the same realm as someone who can tell you the future. And Sybil, she is in this like ring with other people who are diviners, and one by one her fellow diviners start to like disappear. And she is forced on a journey outside of her gothic, mist-cloaked life that she's used to, and she has to find a way to defy the gods in order to do this. And the only way she can do this is with a knight who is like super cranky, I think very grumpy, does not want to be there, but also he's the only person whose future she cannot see, which is very interesting and very concerning for a prophetess. So this book, I think it is going to be so much fun. It is actually going to be a adult romantasy, so I think that there will be maybe some spice possibly. And I do follow her on Instagram, and someone asked her if this was in the same world as One Dark Window, and I think she said it wasn't really like, she didn't plan for it to be in the same world as One Dark Window, but it is in a similar world setting, and I loved that world so much, even though it was so limited. While this one, I think that the prophetess leaves her limited world that she knows and goes out into more. So I'm really interested to see what Rachel Gillig's world building looks like outside of one tiny place. Looking forward to seeing how she writes that and just where the story goes. I think it's actually the first book in a series that she's starting. So there's going to be multiple books in the series. This will not be a standalone. So it will probably end on a sort of pseudo cliffhanger. Not looking forward to that. But her writing and her storytelling is so worth it. That's The Knight and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, coming out on May 20th. So July is going to hit us hard. It is going to have 2 dramione fanfiction-esque retellings that are coming out in that month. The first one that's going to come out will be on July 8th, and that's The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. So it is actually one of the most talked about fanfictions that I've ever experienced, and it is a dramione fanfiction, I think is how you say it, and that would be Draco and Hermione from Harry Potter. So this is a alternate universe in which Draco and Hermione ended up together instead of Hermione and Ron. While I have not personally dabbled into this realm of fanfiction, I have been interested. I actually have one fanfiction that is a dramione fanfiction on my Kindle right now that I got from AO3, but I have yet to jump into it because it is so long that I cannot devote the time that is necessary to like fully wrap myself into it. So I am really, really glad that they are publishing these fanfic inspired or retellings, because then I can really get into it in a more publishing world authorized bite, basically. So they're going to be a little bit shorter, they're going to be condensed down, and they're going to be edited down in a way that the original fanfictions were not. But I'm hoping that they don't lose the whimsy that people always talk about in these books. So The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley is basically like a rom-com-esque retelling of Draco and Hermione. I guess not retelling, but fan fiction of Draco and Hermione, but we've changed it obviously for copyright and publishing reasons. This is going to be the main character. His name is going to be Osric, and he needs healing. He is one of the head assassins for like the bad guys, and he needs to be healed. And who better to heal him than Orion? I don't know how to say their names, I'm so sorry. Who better than to heal him but the main character girl? She is super smart, she is so hot, and she literally is the only person who can do this job. Even though she hates Osric and everything that he stands for, she cannot say no to helping somebody in need. So she does agree to heal him, and this is like a love hypothesis type of rom-com. If you've read Love Hypothesis by alihazelwood, or really anything by alihazelwood, you kind of get the gist. I think this is supposed to be more like traditional rom-com than deep dark fantasy, and I'm really, really living for it. I think it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be funny, and it's going to have just enough humor to break up the next dramione fanfiction I am going to tell you about. So that one is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley, coming out on July 8th. After that, on July, oh my gosh, is it also coming out on July 8th? Are these coming out on the same date? They are. Both of these Draco and Hermione retelling fanfics are coming out the same day. This one is by Julie Soto, and it's called Rose in Chains, and this is another Draco-esque Hermione fanfiction. Rose in Chains is a little bit different in that I don't think it's going to be a light rom-com. It's going to be much darker, much deeper. It's going to have like trigger warnings, and you're definitely going to want to check those out before you pick up this book. But this one follows our main character, and her name is Bryony, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Bryony. And she is captured after the evil people win the war. So bad has won, her family and friends have been murdered, and the hero who is supposed to save them all has been killed. So basically, think Harry Potter, but if Harry Potter lost, that is what we're dealing with here. When she is captured at the end of this war where they have lost and sold to the highest bidder, none other than our horrible Draco-esque main character is the person who bids on her and wins. And his name is Tovin, and he is one of the high-ranking evil forces in this world. And she must learn how to live amongst the people that she hates the most, and also hold on to a bit of hope while she does it. I am looking forward to reading that. It sounds like it's going to be kind of suspenseful, and that there's going to be like betrayal and heartbreak, and that's going to be a fantasy romance, a romantasy adult, definitely adult, because it said that it was dark and you need to check triggers, so not for children. But that is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. Julie Soto also wrote 2 contemporary romance books. This is her first romantasy book. So anyways, check out both of those dramione fan fiction retellings, whatever you want to call them, both coming out on July 8th, which is super exciting and so random, but literally take my money, take my wallet. I am on the wait list for Rose in Chains as a ARC. They have not declined me yet, so I'm still holding out hope that they will actually approve me. I did get heavily booted by the publisher for Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. It is like Berkeley Publishing, I'm pretty sure, and Berkeley Publishing always always rejects every single time. I can't even get into it. They have never approved anything that I've ever asked for. I've asked for like maybe 10 different titles, declined. I just don't carry enough clout, I guess. Anyways, let's get back onto it. So now we're going to roll into August. And the first book that I'm so excited that's coming out in August is Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher. They know how to write a book. Let me tell you. This is a dark reimagining of Snow White, told from the perspective of someone who is assigned to be Snow White's healer because she has been poisoned by who knows how and who knows what, and the healer is tasked with finding out what is poisoning her and how to stop her from dying, which is a very big task because this is literally Princess Snow. This is one of the most important people in the land, and they are tasked with keeping them alive and figuring out why they're dying. So when this healer sets out to find out what is happening to Snow, she actually finds that there is a dark mirror world in which the Dark Queen is trying to take over and kill everybody and ruin all of their lives. So the healer and a very reluctant bodyguard and a narcissistic cat and an ensemble, I think, of characters have to get together in order to save their world and the dark world from this queen that is threatening everybody. That's pretty much all I can tell you because I don't know a lot about it. However, I did just get approved for this as an ARC, so I will be reading it before it comes out on August the 19th. So I will be reading this before it comes out on August 19th. I'm very excited, and I will report back to you with everything that I have to say. And I read some of the reviews on it already on the ARC system that I use, NetGalley, and they said that the main character in this, I think, is like middle-aged, and a lot of people love to see the middle-aged representation. I do too, because normally it means that the characters that are the main characters are not going to be complete and total idiots. Always, always a plus. That is Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher, coming out August the 19th. Next up, we have a book that I'm actually geeking. I'm geeking out about this book, and that would be Katabasis or Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. This is the same author that wrote The Poppy War and Yellowface, and this book, it is about a hero's descent into the underworld, which is the definition of the word katabasis or katabasis. I think it's katabasis, like Calabasas. Maybe that's why I think. Maybe it's Katabasis. I don't know. Anyways, this book is coming out on August the 26th. And I am all of these books. How many times am I going to say I'm very excited? I was very stoked when I saw this book because one, R.F. Kuang is just literally a genius. Like, literally so smart. But also the blurb of it and the description makes me think of Ninth House and Hellbound by Leigh Bardugo. And I ate those books up, especially Ninth House. Ninth House was like my shit, and this reminds me so much of Ninth House just reading the description of it. So this is about a girl who wants to study magic, and in this world, it's like, I think it's an urban fantasy-esque. I'm pretty sure it's an urban fantasy. Maybe, it says historical fantasy. This is a historical fiction. I don't know what time period this is taking part in, but in this world, magic, I guess, is real, but you can like study it at university. So the main female character wants to study magic under this very renowned professor at Cambridge University, and when she gets there, the professor, she's working on some kind of experiment, I guess, or some kind of magic with him. He dies. And it's like pseudo her fault that it happens, and she needs to go free him from hell. So she partners up with this guy who is basically her rival. They don't get along and they don't really like each other at all. They both travel to hell in order to find this professor and bring him back into the world of the living. And really the only instruction they have is Greek mythology, like stories that they've heard, and they're pretty much making it up as they go. I love the concept of this story because it is very much reminding me of Hercules, and I literally watched Hercules so much when I was a kid, and I loved Greek mythology. I still love Greek mythology. Anything Greek mythology is like my shit. I love reading and just consuming that type of media. So this book, I think, is going to be so much fun to read. It's going to be like an adventure. It's going to be very smart because that's how all of R.F. Kuang's books are. They are very intellectual. So I'm going to have to take my time with it for sure. For sure, dude, because there's going to be things that I don't understand. There's going to be things that I'm going to have to bookmark and go back to. It's probably going to be a slower read for me. It might take me quite a bit to get through it, just because any kind of fantasy book that's more high fantasy just takes a lot more brain power than some of the other books that I read. And that's Katabasis by R.F. Kuang, coming out on August 26th. Okay, into September 2nd to be exact, we have a heavy hitter coming out, and that's Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. This is the same author that wrote the Divine Rivals duology, and those books ate down. I think I gave Divine Rivals itself, the first book, a 5 stars, and I still stand by it because I loved that book so much. I have it upstairs. I actually tabbed it, which means a lot because I don't take any notes when I'm reading. This is a book about a girl who I think is born as a goddess, but it's I think goddess lowercase g, and so she is in a group of different goddesses, and she is blessed with a very humble power of being a messenger, and so she carries very important and sometimes top secret messages across to different people. And one day on her messaging, she ends up falling into the dreams of a human boy. Don't quite understand how that happened, but she ends up in the dreams of this human boy, and he is longing to meet her in person. And there's a lot of, I think, political things that are happening in terms of the goddesses and the humans. Cannot really speak on that or get into it, and I could be completely wrong, but that's just kind of what I'm understanding from the description. I think this is going to be another young adult fantasy, so no spice obviously, but lots of banter, and she writes male main characters with so much yearning. It is beautiful. So I'm very interested to see how this series is going to play out. That's Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, coming out on September the 2nd. So we are winding down now. We have 3 books left, and this one following in September, coming out on September 30th, that is Alchemised by Senlinyu. This is the 3rd and final major dramione. I think it actually might be Dramione now that I've been saying it wrong this entire video. This is the 3rd and final Dramione fanfiction that is being traditionally published and repackaged in a way that is going to be sellable and not copyrighted by Harry Potter trademark. So this book is about, very similar to Rose and Chains, but this one is called Alchemized by Senlinyu, and this is about a healer who gets captured after they have been defeated. So think the same as what I said before, Harry Potter Lost on the last book. This is following that, and she has been taken as a prisoner of war, and she is really big in the resistance. However, on all of the resistance paperwork, it just lists her as a measly healer. It doesn't say anything really about her. She's not a high-ranking person via the resistance paperwork. However, all of her memories have been wiped, or she just doesn't remember, or something happened in which she is not remembering anything from her resistance days leading up to the end of this war. So she is given to a very specialized person in the military, a Draco-like character, and he is tasked with regaining those memories and finding out the truth about this main female character at any cost. So while she may have secrets, I think that her captor has his own secrets as well. So this is a adult romantasy book, and it is called Alchemized. It is a traditional publishing of Senlinyu's AO3 book that was called Manacled, which I think Manacled is the one that I have on my Kindle that was originally super long. I don't quote me on that for sure because I actually haven't read it, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure from what I've seen online, the discourse that I've seen about Manacled is that it's long, and I'm pretty sure that they're keeping it on AO3. Actually, we're going to cut that. It is very interesting to me though that 3 Dramione fanfics have been published or will be published this year in 2025. This is a rise up for the romantasy girlies. The next book that we have is the 2nd book in the Bride series by alihazelwood, and this is the partner to that called Mate. And this book follows different characters in the first book. It follows a human were, one-of-a-kind hybrid in this paranormal romance universe that they are living in. This world has vampires with a Y, wares like werewolves, and humans, and the main female character in this is a human were hybrid, and she is actually mated to this alpha wear. However, in this Omegaverse style book, she does not want to be with this man. She's made it very clear she doesn't want to be with this man, but he still must do everything he can to protect her because she is in the middle of like a political battle between the were-human vampires. She literally is pitted in the middle of them because of how different she is, and her mate, this alpha that knows that she doesn't want to be with him, will still do anything he can to protect her, which is so sweet when you think about it. But this is a paranormal romance by alihazelwood. I have not read Bride yet. It is actually on my shelf over there. I think I'm going to take it with me this weekend and try to read it this weekend because I need to know about it. I think I'm in the right and correct headspace for it. So we're going to be picking up Bride this week. Hopefully this weekend I'll read it, and that will be that. That is actually going to be coming out on October the 7th. Mate by alihazelwood. The last book that I have is Girl Dinner by Olivie Blake, and this comes out also in October, but on October 21st. This is Olivie Blake's second book that I have on the list, and this one is about two different girls. One is a mom and one is a sorority girl, and they both get sucked into this cult like nutrition wellness like group. I don't really know how to explain it in a way that doesn't sound completely and utterly silly. They both become a member of the house, which is like capital T, the capital H house. They will do anything they can to stay in this group in which they are trying to empower these women, but it's like at what cost? I think that it is very cult-like and ritualistic, the things that they have to do. It kind of reminds me of the premise of Bunny by Mona Awad. If you've read that, I haven't read it. I just like know what it's about. So it kind of reminds me and gives me that kind of vibe. It gives me like feminine rage or like feminine craziness. It like taps into that psychoticness that a woman can become. So I'm interested in reading this. I think that it will be really good when I'm really feeling down in the dumps. But however, it does not come out until October, and I have not been offered a arc of it, so I probably won't be reading it until October. But Girl Dinner by Olivie Blake coming out October 21st. Those are all of the books that I have to talk about. Oh, I had an honorary mention, and that would be Summer in the City by Aster coming out this month, March 25th. That book, I've talked about it in my last video because I read it in February. I've talked about it a few times, so I didn't want to fully touch on it again, but it is a contemporary romance. If you want to know more about it, just look it up on Goodreads, or you can watch my previous video about all the books that I read in February because I talk about it there. Those are all of the books that I had to talk about, 13 plus an honorable mention. I am very excited for this year of reading. Love female authors. Love that there's so many great books coming out. If you think that any of these books sound good, please let me know down in the comments below. If you're looking forward, or if you have any of them written down in your calendar, pre-ordered, whatever it is, let me know. I love you guys. Thank you for being here and always listening to me rant for way too long. Have a great day or night. I love you guys. Bye. Thank you.